defeated the Dutch at Elmina Castle in January 1712, and took control of that castle. And then December 1712, on Christmas Day, he blew up the gunpowder room of the Royal African Company's trading base, Fort Meadowcross at Fort Fredericksburg in Ghana. Now, he knew the British. The reason why he attacked them it was on Christmas Day. The reason why he attacked them on Christmas Day was because he knew that they would be inebriated. They would be all about merrymaking, and they would be completely distracted with celebrate their celebration, and therefore he was able to attack and held the castle. They said for 7 years, 7 or 8 years, 1718 to 1724. So yeah, about 6 to 8 years. Anyway, what was astounding is that they said, according to the records that Dr. Christopher Davis uh, research, and his research is amazing, because what he did is he took slave ship records from England. He examined them from Germany and the ones from the Dutch. And then he contrasted that with the oral tradition of his people, and the oral traditions when he went back to um, John Quao's homeland, and spoke with the elders there to get their story. And so he's gotten the traditional oral tradition, and he was able to find the historical European records to create this storyline, or this historical line, of what was going on with John Qual. And the he goes into this this conversation about how Europeans really tried to downplay the importance of John Qua. One of the first things was to change his name to John Canoe, and then say he was a slave in the Bahamas. And then they said, well, he was a slave trader. If he was so wealthy that it was amazing, yeah. So he had to be a partner with us in crime. But what Mr. Davis found is that during the reign of John Qua, that there were no Hunter people or Ghanaians who came through that uh, portal, that area that he was in charge of. He was control. There were no slaves captured from that area for like 30, 40 years, because this man and his soldiers were on it, and made sure, and they were fearless, and they scared the hell out of these white people. They just didn't even go over there. They didn't even try to get any Africans from this area. And so, because he was killing them, he was blowing up their stuff, and he was just such a powerful person, and we don't know the story. And you have even the people in the Caribbean who celebrate John Quao, have been have turned it into minstrelsy. Um, they have lost the meaning of who this man is. The initial meaning of it was the when Africans who heard the legend of this man came across the through the Maafa on the transatlantic trade, this European slave trade of black people, African people. We uh they knew about this man, and so they created these, they said as early as the late 1700s, they were celebrating him in their own spaces. In Panama, they had their Jamaica, they had their celebrations, the Belize, and wherever the Garifuna people went. And so, and a lot of them still speak their Ghanaian, in a Ghanaian tongue. They speak Twi or Ewe or whatever, and they have maintained that connection to uh to Ghana. And it is just it's amazing that what happened, they said that if initially, uh, these European, slave owners, um, were trying, I mean, they had to do everything they could to distort the story of this man. And, they tried to say, "Oh, he, like I said, he was a slave." One of the things that Mr. Davis says, well, if he was a slave in the Bahamas, how did his name get to North Carolina and South Carolina and Florida and the Bahamas and Jamaica and Belize, and all of these English speaking areas, um, without internet? He said it's crazy that they're trying to limit him to the Bahamas. And late in 1801, which is when they had the first John Canoe Festival there in the Bahamas, but they said all of these other places were celebrating him before the Bahamas. So they just try to create this um, you know, caricature of him, to form their own idea or impose their own idea of him. Just like we've seen that right now. They have reduced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to this I Have a Dream speech. The man wrote so many books. You have Strength to Love, you got Where Do We Go From Here? Oh my God, how many different books does he have out? And they have reduced him to one line in the March of Washington. One. And tried to use that line against us in their own narratives. I mean, and so it's crazy. So we've seen that in real time. This is the exact same thing they did to John Canoe. And so on Saturday, when we go out there, we're playing our African drums. They said African drums are a critical part of this celebration, because in the ancient tradition, the drums were calling up the spirit of the warriors and the ancestors, um, to go before them in this fight for freedom. And he said bells were used, and so you can have the merrymaking, but we have to remember what was the vision of this man. And so when you're learning your history, there's so many things that are right here within our grasp that we don't even know about. And just imagine these Africans out here on a plantation here in North Carolina, here in this Raleigh Durham area, who had the audacity to celebrate this man in the 1800s here. uh how did they get to this area? Because we're not on the coastline. And so I know that there was a lot of movement of Africans, around, people were being sold from Barbados up to here, from the Bahamas down to there, from North New York up to New York, back down to Mississippi, across to Alabama, here in South Carolina, spread out, so we know that this was passed on, spread out. But to know that they were doing that here, celebrating a black man who defeated the British, defeated the Germans, defeated the Dutch, just like Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines down there in Haiti. And they were so alarmed with this man because they knew that he could start, just the mention of his name. These Europeans knew that just the mention of his name could ignite a insurrection, a revolt. And so they had to take his historical legacy and nullify it, just make it like, milk instead of meat, And so, hey, John Canoe, look it up and learn about your history. Learn about your history and teach your children. Ashe, Asheo.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I know my mother.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Sya student.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So